like a craft beer through a pint glass. These are the gays of our lives. A show where Lisa and Avery get out their gay decoder rings to decipher the gay alphabet and bridge the gap between the older and younger LGBTQ community and everyone fucking else. And now here are your hosts, Lisa and Avery. Don't blame them.
Hey guys, it's Lisa.
And Avery.
And today on The Gays of Our Lives, we have a special guest.
And special's an understatement because it's Margaret Cho.
Yay! The Margaret Cho.
Yay!
And Lucia.
Lucia.
Her baby.
Yes, she's very sweet. She's a very good girl.
So tiny.
Oh, she's precious.
Yes.
How long have you been doing comedy?
I've been doing comedy for 36 years.
Wow.
A really long time. But it's weird because doesn't seem that long. Like it feels like it's not that long, but then if I actually count the years, it's that long.
Yeah, like when you really go back and think about it.
I've really looked out like kind of like the shows that I've done and all the things I've seen. It's that long.
Well, I was just like, really just, when I first was introduced to you, I was in high school, so it's like 07 to 09, and I was just really like, it's funny just getting reacquainted with your comedy now. It's really just evolved so much even since then, so like, I'm sure you could even feel that from the beginning.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's like you learn to really adapt, and times change and things change, and it's kind of like the things that you do, you get different values over time.
Right.
And different ideas about it, and you know what I love about the art form is that it's malleable and it kind of goes with you, and you can move with it, and it grows with you, and I love that.
Yeah.
How did you get into it?
I was in a high school of performing arts, and I had a teacher who was signing me up, and I was a duo, so it was me and actor Sam Rockwell, who's very accomplished now, but he was a comedian back then with me. So we were in the same class, and she would sign us up for shows at this open mic in San Francisco, and so we would go, and we were like really young kids, but we had something about, like, there was something about it that worked, and he ended up leaving and going to New York, and I stayed, and I stayed with it, and I found purpose there, and I found just a sense of safety and a sense of fulfillment, and it was really what I needed.
You said once that, well, I think it was in one of your sets, that your parents owned a gay bookstore.
Yes, in San Francisco. It was called Paperback Traffic, and it was on the corner of Polk and California, which at that time was, it was like, you know, everybody thinks about the Castro as being a gay neighborhood, but the Polk district was a really, really gay neighborhood also. But unfortunately, what happened is that neighborhood ended up collapsing during AIDS, because so many people died, and the businesses were all going under because the gay community there was just, everybody was sick, and it was really hard to, it was hard to grow up then and witness that, you know, and to see just the community in front of you just being decimated by this disease was really devastating. And you know, growing up there it was powerful, and that's the place where the series of books and the movies, TV shows of Tales of the City is set. A lot of it's set there. And actually Armistead, who wrote those books, would do book signings from our store. So, you know, that's the community that I was raised in, is sort of that queer bookstore crowd. These people who were very involved in Harvey Milk's, you know, political career, who were later very active in ACT UP and all of the different political movements that, you know, people were needing to get into because of the need to get the government involved with the disease and to help survive. So it was a really amazing place to grow up, but a very heartbreaking place to grow up too.
Yeah.
Was it easier on your parents when you came out because they owned the gay bookstore?
I don't know. I think it was like there was something about me that was different, and that they knew that being around gay people was a really nurturing thing. And so it was almost like they were telling me something that I didn't even really know myself, because I was younger than I never really thought about it, at that age. And so it was something that I think they may have sort of encouraged, because they really wanted me to be around gay people. They wanted me to be around people who were different from their Korean friends, from their church friends. These men who were getting dressed up in drag at night, or these guys who were would wear cowboy outfits. They would wear full cowboy outfits, Marlboro Man outfits, but it wasn't a costume. It was just they were presenting. It was this very amazing kind of community, and these were people who were getting tattoos very young. And in the 70s and the 80s, getting full body tattoos was a really big deal. It wasn't like it is now. So, being in that environment as a kid, I was really influenced. I knew that I was going to be different. I was going to be queer. I was also going to be very tattooed. And it was kind of this legacy that they set me up for that I wasn't even really aware of. So it wasn't so much of an issue of coming out. There wasn't really that, because it was this thing of go to those people because they're going to tell you who you are. So it was more this sort of very knowledgeable educational thing. We're not equipped to understand what we think you might be going through, but we're going to give you these people who have a more of a ready explanation. So, and I think that it was really meaningful. But the problem with that too is that it set me up for oh, this is just then you're a lesbian. But when I realized oh, actually there's a side of me that's very heterosexual as well, that was something that everybody was freaked out. Everybody's still freaked out.
Kind of opposite.
So it's that's sort of the nature of bisexuality, is people kind of don't trust you. You have a duality of being that, because it's the gay community is set up in such absolutes. We are who we are, and we're very invested in our identity, and we have to fight to keep our identity, and fight to maintain our identity. And yet bisexual people are well, we're sort of looking at kind of this not real place, because a lot of people say they're bi when they're not ready to come out.
Yeah.
Or a lot of people say that they're bi, as a kind of a way to explain away things, but it's a real destination. It's not
it's not just a stopping point and then you keep going.
Yeah, but
to be fair,
yeah.
I did that and I feel awful about it now when I actually talk to bisexual people, because I was this will be easier for my parents. So, but in reality, I should just drop the whole transgender bombshell from the beginning,
But it's great. It's great because it's now we're learning that, and be able to talk about it, and it's funny to think about. But yeah, it's a very strange place to be in. And I think that probably maybe it shares some commonality with people who are the asexual community, because they sort of have that same kind of thing. People don't really trust that that's a real identity.
Right.
And so I feel a kinship there, definitely. So I think as we start to understand what queer is, and sort of all of the acronym grows, it's really powerful, because we're just getting all of the letters, and I love how people are really defining very specifically about who they are.
Oh yeah, I mean the alphabet's gotten so long now. There's just a plus sign at the end of it, just to make sure we don't miss anybody.
There's so many, because there's so many ways to identify, and the freedom to do that is really powerful.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of why we're doing this, because like I mentioned, I'm older and I didn't understand some of the letters, and I'm learning. I'm still learning through this, and I never would have thought I would have ever asked, what are your pronouns? Before in my life, I never would have thought that.
And it's great. It's great because so many people are teaching us. I'm an older person as well, so it's people are teaching me, and I am learning a lot. Especially people who are, defining their own way. They're doing their own thing, and I love that fluidity. I love that, sense of well, these are my pronouns. This is what I do, and this is who I am, and this is. It's really great to have it broken down for me.
Yeah. Okay, how many tattoos do you have, since you mentioned
A lot. I have probably, my entire back, most of my arms, most of my legs, my chest, my stomach, pretty much everything. I'm not going to get any more. I mean, I have a lunch I have to finish, but I'm just not motivated to. It's weird. It's I got I don't know, I tapped out of it. It's too painful. It gets really painful over time, and I don't have the patience anymore to sit with it. So I'm okay with being unfinished.
I agree. I'm done now. It's different now that I'm older.
Yeah, it's
Like, I'm
different. It
done.
changes. Like your tolerance changes, your ideas around it
The
change.
last one, I
It
was
becomes
like-
a lot less, you know, it's less pressing.
Got like 5 planned. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have them. I think that I love it, and I love all my tattoo friends, and you know, a lot of my tattoos come from the time where I was just like heavily invested in like these tattoo people that I was hanging out with, and everybody that's tattooed me. For the most part, they're all really close friends of mine.
Oh, that's nice too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Where do you get your confidence from?
I think that it's really like, it's like, why not? You know, like, why not be confident at this? Like, I think because in comedy I was such an unlikely voice, and I was so much younger than everybody else when I was starting, that I had to use this very confident demeanor, even though I didn't really believe it. I had to, because when you're a comedian, they need to trust you, and they need to know that they're in safe hands and they're in good hands, and so you have to deliver that at least, and so that's really kind of what it came from. I was sort of faking it, and then after a while it was real, because I'd used it and relied on it for so long. So it is like that thing of like fake it till you make it. It actually did that, so it's good.
But is the confidence in comedy what gives you confidence in life? Because I
Yeah.
feel like you're a very confident person outside
Yeah.
of comedy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but that's like only because I was always so different that I had to convince people that I was worthy of whatever job that I was looking for. So whether it was because of my race, because of my age, because of you know, my body, because of my whatever, my unusual appearance in this industry, I had to be very much a salesperson and convince them they had to buy it to it. So that's really where it comes from. But you know, like if you do that long enough, you do that for like 10, 20, 30 years, you really sort of like believe your own
Yeah.
press. So it's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's just a point with sales true though too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
It's true.
and then I feel like with you, that's like a
That's
whole
what
thing.
I did my whole life.
Yeah, because you're really convincing people and you're selling yourself, and that's, I think, really a wonderful thing to be able to do.
Well, actually, I never even thought about it like that, but really, I mean, it's really just putting your story on paper, especially because a lot of your jokes are obviously like stories that are like really well threaded. So I mean, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about trying to write it out and trying to figure out what works, and you know, it's always very different, and I appreciate different approaches in comedy and different styles, and there's lots of people who are really changing the landscape of it, which is great.
What's like an example of that to you, of like someone who's like really just like changing the landscape?
I think Tig Notaro
Yeah.
was really special because here's somebody who is completely unique and just like really funny in a way that is so unexpected and so surprising and so ridiculous. And then I always have the same feelings about Sarah Silverman too. They have something in common, those two, and I really love them both. They're both good friends of mine, and so it's that kind of surprise element. It's what I always appreciated in Paula Poundstone, who was really my role model for a long time, and as well as Wanda Sykes, who is quite impressive, you know, in her writing and the way that she thinks. She's really special. So it's, yeah, I really am always impressed by those comedians.
I love that you said Tig. Now, when I very first started this, I was on disability because of my breast cancer, and I'm flat like Tig is.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, my friends were like, "You've got it," and I never really watched comedy before.
Mm-hmm.
I got into it. They said, "You've got to watch this Tig girl."
Yeah,
And I got
yeah.
on there, and she took her shirt off on stage because I do that all the time.
Uh-huh.
Take my shirt off. So they were like, "You've got to watch her," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not that skinny to do it on stage, but." But she is pretty amazing. I love that she puts it out there
Yeah.
for people to see too.
Yeah, and so funny, and just like, you know, totally unique, totally different. It's really exciting to watch. So I really laugh.
I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so.
No,
For
Wanda
sure.
Sykes was one of those that was so new to me too. Like, and really, like, I just started getting into like comedy maybe like 5 years ago. But then I like watched all of Wanda Sykes all of a
Yeah.
sudden, and then she was like a really cool. Like, she's got like you said, like a really unique writing voice.
Yeah.
You've acted and you've been in movies and TV shows, correct?
Mhm.
And so, which of the three do you like? What's your
Well,
favorite?
I like it all.
comedy?
I like it all. I mean, I think there's such great things in all. I mean, I just, comedy is like the easiest. I mean, in terms of, just like the work itself, the schedule of it. It's a lot to travel, a lot of travel, but I like that part. And you know, that there's just there's an ease to it. Most comedians feel like this is like kind of, we can do this forever. Movies and television, it's a different thing because generally you're in somebody else's project, and so you're there to sort of like create their vision, which is also really cool. And yeah, and it's a lot of fun to be able to just be on a set, and that's a whole different thing too. So I really love all of it, but I think if you look at sort of like ease of it and lifestyle, comedy is really the best.
Oh yeah.
I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
But I've got a kind of a funny little question for you. What reality show would you be on if you had a choice?
I do kind of like Survivor. I do like anything that's like kind of in a stressful environment, like it, where you're like kind of trying to be like sort of in nature, so whatever, like the jungle or like wherever
Naked
they're.
and
I was
Afraid,
gonna say
where you're just
Naked
like
and
Yeah,
right there.
maybe like Naked and Afraid. Well, that would just seem like there would be a lot of chafing. So I don't know if I would like that, but I do think that. Or I also love like an early 2000s like Flavor of Love, like
Oh my
any
God, I
kind
had
of
that
like
written
Rock
down.
of Love. Like I do love that like the VH1 like oeuvre of incredible like reality dating shows that are sort of they all spring out of the surreal life, and then they're all sort of
I
different.
forgot about the surreal.
Yeah,
life.
It's
I do love
hilarious.
those. So those are really fun.
I was gonna name 4 for you to choose from, and you named 2 of them already.
I like Bad Girls Club too.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Bad Girls Club is really good. For watching, I think it's super fun to watch.
Yeah. So, are you dating right now?
I'm
Or?
dating him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Yay! That's awesome. I did see that you guys adopted the baby. together.
That's just our daughter.
Yes, I did, but I didn't know if it was just because you guys were, helped each other out on tour and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because he's funny.
So I don't want to like
No,
interrupt.
you're
I
fine.
like
No,
that.
you're
Yeah,
totally
sorry.
fine. No, you're totally fine. Do you have any other questions? You grew up watching her.
I know, but now we're in the room, and I'm not gonna like fanboy. That's nerdy. So no, I will say, when it came to like doing comedy, and then like, so I myself have to present myself obviously a little differently, and I guess like you said you faked it till you make it. But was there anyone else around you, I guess at the time, that like made that easier for you? Like other than obviously you mentioned Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, I mean, because it was being in a duo was easier in the beginning because you were like performing something that you weren't just the only one.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a different dynamic. But like when I started, it wasn't like I had people that I could emulate, but I did have a lot of help. Like there were people that were very influential, that were very helpful to me. People like Jerry Seinfeld was very, very helpful.
Oh, wow.
And very encouraging. Rosie O'Donnell also incredibly encouraging. Cindy Lauper gave me a big boost. I worked with her and I opened for her on tour for many, many years, which was incredible. Do these huge like rock shows, like just with her and Debbie Harry and Joan Jett was like pretty powerful, So I was able to like use their stages to kind of develop in a way that, I really appreciate. So there's a lot of people who did give me a lot of advice and a lot of help and a lot of jobs, and so I really appreciate that. So I'm lucky that way.
Well, we greatly appreciate you and everything you do for the LGBTQAI plus, whatever.
Thank you.
And just the fact that you go out there and you talk about it and you own it and you talk about it, because a lot of people are scared, especially, we talked about the bisexuality.
Yeah.
A lot of people are kind of scared. I have some bisexual friends I asked to come on and they're like, I don't talk about that. And I'm like,
It's so weird, but it's like that thing of like, where do we find a voice and like representation if nobody's willing to represent? It's really weird. But people are very, people are very protective of those kinds of things, especially being bi. It's like a very weird place to be, I think we just need a new flag. It's purple and pink.
I would say, do you have? I thought there was.
We have a
flag.
purple and pink flag.
yeah.
We do have a flag, but we need a better one. I think that the flag needs to be approved.
like racing flames or something.
Something that's like more
Something-
like, like more badass. I'm not sure what. Like, I like the leather flag. The leather flag I think is really cool.
But that just makes sense. I don't know. Because
Yeah.
I think the trans flag should be different too. Because I'm not like a huge fan of pink. I think there should be some like green in there. I don't know.
Yeah, but I like the bear flag. The bear flag
yeah.
is like the pod. You
Yeah.
know, that's
But that makes sense too.
it totally
yeah.
does. It's
Yeah.
really good. So I guess we all think, you know, whatever. Nothing's going to really represent all of, you know, everybody.
Honestly, but I think your comedy does, and that's
Yeah.
one thing that I always thought, even when I was younger, because I was kind of raised a little bit homophobic, and not by any fault of my parents. It's just the nature of Indiana at the time. But I remember like you were so inclusive, and you weren't like shaming gay people when you talked about them on stage. If anything, it was like, I'll get in here, like, you know.
That's
what I mean?
good, yeah.
And that's just one way I've always felt about your comedy. It's like it was very inclusive towards everybody,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's good. Well, you know, it should be, and I think that's what it is like making the comedy club a safe haven for everybody who just wants to laugh, because it didn't used to be safe, like especially for Asian Americans, for gays, for women, for anybody who felt like they were different. Comedy clubs were a very hostile environment in the 80s. You know, it was hard, so that you didn't feel safe like going, like they're gonna make fun of me or whatever. And so now it's like much more inclusive to have a showroom that everybody feels like we're included, you know, and I like that.
Do you feel like, because I feel like the everybody has gotten sensitive, and I mean, I
Yeah.
see people get offended at comedy shows, and I'm like, what? You came to a comedy show?
I
Do you
know.
have people come
Yeah.
to your show and get offended?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I mean, if they
Oh,
come to
yeah.
your show, they should know what they're coming for.
Yeah, but they get offended. People get offended, and it's just something that, you know, it's the nature of society, and that's sort of like the way that social media is. But it also blows over really fast too, and I think people get offended at stuff. It's like, you know, some people get, you know, get very triggered by things, and you know, I don't know. Like, I'm not that easy to offend. And I could be, because I have all these sort of minority statuses around my identity. But I don't feel a sense of like knee jerk, like wanting to be angry about things. But I definitely see that in you know, comedians are having a hard time because they can't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just about finding a skillful way to do that.
We greatly appreciate you doing this
Thank
with
you.
us. It means a lot, and we love watching you. I mean,
Oh, thank you.
I really enjoyed watching you live for the first
That's
time
great.
ever. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you guys have any questions, you can contact us on our page at www.laughs.life.
You can also follow us on all social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Remember it this time.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Gays of Our Lives. Make sure to check out the Gays online at www.laughs.life.